Our top story for today. Israeli media reports suggest a ceasefire deal between Israel and the Palestine resistance organization Hamas seems increasingly unlikely. Reports suggest a phased U.S.-backed prisoner exchange and ceasefire agreement is now nearly impossible. This is due to hardened positions and changing goalposts by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The draft agreement was based on Israel's proposal submitted in May. According to Times of Israel, Netanyahu's insistence on maintaining Israeli control over key border areas, which was not part of the original proposal, has derailed any progress. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich's additional demands have effectively rendered Israel's May proposal void. President Joe Biden is reportedly considering a new proposal, but faces internal doubts due to the stalemated talks and increasing demands. Meanwhile, the situation for prisoners remains dire. Families of the deceased prisoners recently recovered from Gaza have been rallying in Tel Aviv, demanding action and accountability from the Israeli government. Protests continue as public pressure mounts on leaders to end the war and secure the remaining prisoners, amid growing frustration and calls for decisive action. Israeli airstrikes have killed 37 Palestinians and injured 150 others in Gaza since Saturday, with 7 fatalities on Monday. The ongoing Israeli military campaign against Gaza, which is now in its 339th day, has seen multiple heavy airstrikes and artillery bombardments targeting various areas. That includes the Nuseirat and the Al Bureij refugee camps. In Nuseirat, an airstrike on a residential building killed 3 and injured 7 others, while a separate attack on the local post office caused additional casualties. The Al Bureij camp also bore the brunt of overnight strikes, which killed 4 people and left many wounded. Further escalation includes the bombing of the Al Amoudi street in Gaza City and the killing of Mohammed Morsi, a senior Gaza Civil Emergency Service official, along with 4 of his family members in Jabalia. This brings the total number of civil emergency service personnel killed since October 7th to 83. The violence has severely disrupted daily life, with more than 630,000 students in Gaza unable to return to school. It marks a second year of educational disruption. Israel has killed 40,972 Palestinians and injured 94,761 others in Gaza in the past 339 days. However, a report by experts in the British medical journal The Lancet in July estimated that Palestinian deaths due to Israel's war could be approximately 186,000. Meanwhile, Syria's foreign ministry says 16 people were killed in the Israeli strikes on central Syria on Sunday, and 36 were wounded, 6 of them in critical conditions. Israel faces accusations of genocide for its war on Gaza at the International Court of Justice. Illegal Israeli settlers have demolished 47 Palestinian structures, including homes and agricultural buildings in the Tyre area of the West Bank over the past week. Palestinians discovered the destruction upon returning to their properties after being barred by Israeli forces. Local farmer Mohammed Tanena reported severe losses, including to his grape vineyard and irrigation tank. Tanena highlighted that the demolished structures were legally permitted by local authorities. The destruction occurred while Israeli military roadblocks were in place, which settlers exploited to carry out their attacks. This incident is part of a broader pattern of violence and displacement. Recent reports note that settlers have killed 19 Palestinians and displaced numerous Bedouin communities since October 2023. In May, the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem revealed a plan by Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to expel Palestinian farmers and shepherds from their land in the occupied West Bank in collaboration with illegal settlers. Israeli estimates suggest more than 720,000 illegal settlers live in settlements across the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The International Court of Justice has condemned Israel's occupation and settlement policies. Türkiye is working to facilitate the handover of the body of Ayşe Nur Özgi Aygi to her family in the United States for burial. Aygi is a Turkish-American activist recently killed by Israeli soldiers in the occupied West Bank. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ancu Koçeli says the autopsy report is expected to be forwarded to its consulate general in Jerusalem by the Palestinian authorities. Agi was a 26-year-old dual citizen of Türkiye and the United States. Israeli soldiers shot her dead during a protest against illegal Israeli settlements in the town of Beta, in the Nablus district of occupied West Bank. The international community, including Türkiye, the United States, and the United Nations, has condemned the killing. Agi's death has sparked outrage and calls for accountability from local and international communities. The killing echoes the case of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who Israeli soldiers killed in a similar manner in 2022. Health insurers will be required to cover mental health care and addiction services the same as any other condition, the Biden administration announced today. The move is part of the administration's ongoing battle with health insurers. Officials say they are skirting a 2008 law requiring plans that cover mental health and substance use care benefits at the same level as physical health care benefits. The health insurance industry is likely to challenge the rule, arguing the administration did not have the authority to issue it to begin with. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit has overturned the class certification for Black Lives Matter protesters in their 2020 lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. The court found the initial certification lacked thorough analysis and sent the case back to the lower court for reconsideration. Judge Kenneth Lee says the lower court failed to properly evaluate whether the protesters' individual claims were sufficiently similar to justify a class action. He also noted the varied experiences of the plaintiffs, ranging from those who were merely present to those who were faced felony charges, complicated the possibility of resolving their grievances collectively. The ruling offers Black Lives Matter Los Angeles another chance to pursue their case as a group, focusing on whether any issues can be addressed with class-wide evidence. The federal trial of 3 former Memphis, Tennessee police officers charged in the killing of Tyrie Nichols began today. Ex-officers Tyrie Bean, Justice Smith Jr., and Demetrius Haley will stand trial for federal civil rights and conspiracy charges in connection with Nichols' death, according to a Department of Justice announcement last year. Nichols was a 29-year-old black man who was stopped by officers for an alleged traffic violation while driving home from work on January 7, 2023. After being pulled from his car, Nichols was beaten brutally by the officers in an assault caught on video and later released to the public. Nichols died from his injuries 3 days after the attack. His death sparked national outrage as demonstrators called for a prompt investigation and denounced police brutality. Chicago Muslim Community Center shot. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. Chicago's Muslim Community Center has been a subject to possible hate crimes. Established in 1969, it is one of the oldest and largest Muslim organizations in Chicago. Chair of the center's security committee, Saif Mazhar, says office staff found what looked like bullet holes on the building's glass doors during Labor Day weekend. When several new holes were found on Tuesday, 2 days later, Mazhar says he then realized the mosque was being targeted. He notes that the community has since been very shaken up. On Thursday, he reached out to the FBI to request it look into the incident as a potential hate crime, concurrent to the Chicago Police Department's investigation. A groundbreaking study reveals a disturbing link between declines in bat population in the United States and increased infant deaths. The research, which was published in the journal Science, is led by University of Chicago environmental economist E.L. Frank. It found that bats die off primarily due to a fungal disease known as white nose syndrome, introduced in 2006. The large-scale death of bats led to a rise in pests in the farms, forcing farmers to use insecticides. This increased exposure to harmful chemicals is correlated with higher rates of infant mortality in those areas. Bats can eat thousands of insects per night and act as a natural pest control for farmers. In the absence of bats, farmers in affected countries used more insecticides. This research highlights the urgent need for comprehensive policies that safeguard biodiversity to protect public health. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's controversial migrant busing program has cost taxpayers a staggering $221 million since April 2022. This expenditure has transported nearly 120,000 migrants to 6 Democrat-led cities, costing approximately $1,800 per person, far exceeding the cost of bus or flight tickets. Critics argue that instead of spending millions on busing, it would have been cheaper to provide tickets directly. Despite a $32.7 billion surplus in state funds, Abbott's operation has been described as a political ploy, benefiting contractors more than the migrants. The program, which has since ceased due to low demand, was criticized for being an ineffective and expensive solution to a complex issue. Additionally, Abbott has faced backlash for other controversial measures, including installing what have been described as death traps on the Rio Grande and signing anti-migrant legislation. A New York Times investigation published in July found that more than half of the migrants bussed out of Texas were initially from Venezuela. They endured not only ongoing political turmoil, but also U.S. economic sanctions. Ex-President Donald Trump has threatened to target those who he claims cheated in the 2020 presidential election if he wins the race to the White House in November. Trump, who lost to Joe Biden in 2020, claims the election was fraudulent and rigged. He says all those people who, according to him, cheated will be prosecuted. That includes lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and election officials. In the past 2 weeks, approximately 10,000 Rohingya have sought refuge in neighboring Bangladesh, fleeing escalating clashes between the Burmese military junta and rebel factions. This influx adds to the 1.2 million Rohingya already living in Bangladesh since August 2017. They largely live in overcrowded camps in the city of Cox's Bazar, with 35,000 relocated to Bhasanchar Island. The situation remains dire, with daily crossings and heavy fighting reported near the border. Local chief official Dr. Adnan Chaudhry notes finding 70 bodies with bullet wounds along the border, believed to be casualties from the conflict. About 40,000 Rohingya now are awaiting at the border to enter Bangladesh, prompting heightened patrols to manage the crisis. Thousands gathered on the outskirts of the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, on Sunday to demand the release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The rally was organized by Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or the PTI party. It marked its first major demonstration in the capital since May 2023, despite government restrictions. Protesters waving party flags and chanting slogans faced confrontations with police who used tear gas to disperse the crowd after reports of stone throwing. PTI claims the February elections were rigged and has mobilized supporters from across the region. The administration defended its roadblocks as security measures. Meanwhile, PTI leaders vowed to continue their fight for Khan's release and true democracy. Khan, who is currently in prison, faces multiple charges but maintains his innocence and says the charges are politically motivated. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you news you can trust. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on what you thought of today's coverage. Thank you. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.